Let's begin by telling you that President Bola Tinubu is expected to meet with the leadership of the organized labor in continuation of discussions on a new minimum wage for Nigerian workers. The Minister of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris, said that the president will meet with the labor leaders to finalize their thoughts, and then he will make his informed decision known to Nigerians by also sending it to the National Assembly. He said the Minister of Budget and National Planning, Atiku Bagudu, has been directed to come up with a proposal for an amendment act to the 2024 Appropriation Act to be sent to the National Assembly. The president is expected to make a decision on the 62,000 naira proposal of the government and private sector side, as well as the 250,000 naira demand by the organized labor. The current minimum wage is 30,000 naira. But I'll tell you that the Nigerian police in Abuja have prevented a protest by the Joint Action Committee of University Non-Academic Staff Unions. The unions were demanding the payment of 4 months withheld salaries. Despite pleas from the union leaders, the police blocked the gates and refused to allow the protest to proceed. The unions have instead submitted their letters to the Ministers of Education and Labour. They have issued an ultimatum threatening a full-scale strike and shutdown of universities nationwide if the demands are not met by next week. Union leaders, including Mohammed Ibrahim, Hassan Makolo, and Peters Adeyemi, addressed the protesters, describing the police action as a threat to democracy. The Minister of Education, Tahir Mamman, has granted approval for the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, JAMB, and Nigerian tertiary institutions to admit candidates from the age of 16. This followed objections and pleas by heads of tertiary institutions present at the policy meeting on the 2024 admission organized by JAMB and held in Abuja on Thursday. The policy meeting is a forum for critical stakeholders in the admission process into tertiary institutions in the country, including university vice-chancellors and registrars, rectors and registrars of polytechnics, provosts and registrars of colleges of education, the JAMB registrar and other officials of the examination body and principal officers of monotechnics. In the meantime, the Minister of Education, Professor Tahir Mamman, says a new curriculum would be introduced for secondary schools nationwide by September 2024. Tahir made this known at the ongoing 2024 Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board policy meeting in Abuja on Thursday. According to the minister, the exercise has been on for the past year, and the stakeholders meeting will be held on August 6, 2024. Recently, the National Senior Secondary School Education Commission decried the deplorable state of senior secondary schools in the country and called for collaboration to overcome some of the challenges bedeviling the secondary school level of the education in the country. The commission listed some of the challenges confronting the sector as including infrastructural deficit, unqualified teachers, obsolete curriculum, and deplorable libraries and laboratories. Let's also tell you that the Nigerian Senate has removed Senator Ali Ndume as the chief whip, replacing him with Senator Tahir Mamman. The change followed a directive issued in a letter by the national chairman of the party, Umar Ganduje, and National Secretary, Senator Bashir Ajibola. The letter was read during plenary, and the request was put to a voice vote by Senate President Godswill Akpabio, receiving loud affirmation from all APC senators. The APC accused Ndume of making hurtful comments against President Bola Tinubu. In a recent interview, Ndume alleged that some ministers and lawmakers could no longer reach Tinubu to relate the prevailing economic hardship and hunger in the country. Now, joining us to discuss more on this is a political analyst, Catch Ononuju. Catch, thank you so much for joining us to discuss this.
Thank you for having me today.
So the Senate's chief whip, or should I say ex-chief whip, Ali Ndume, joins Abdul on the list of lawmakers to get whipped for daring to speak to the country's leadership over unpleasant occurrences. So isn't that what democracy is all about? Shouldn't it be about accountability in the first place?
I don't think it has to do with the democracy. That has to do with falling out of line. He is the chief whip of his political party in the Senate. His job is to whip other senators of the party into line in regards to issues, motions, and bills supported by the party. So what he has done is simply to rebel against the party. He is supposed to, without question, be the party's drum major, not the complainant. So the minute the party saw it has lost its drum major with a position called chief whip, the party simply has to remove him and find a new drum major. Ndume's work has nothing to do with democracy. It has everything with being the party's drum major in the Senate. So if he falls out of line with the party has come in to discipline him because no one else, no. Others can do it. If it were a normal democrat, others can speak. But when Ndume has done things like this and the party felt that if there were no consequences for this, 8 bills in the House, the original manager of the bill in the House is the chief whip.
But Catch is first a Nigerian.
Ndume has abdicated responsibility, and that's why the party came hard on him.
Catch, I understand, but when you look at it, you discover that he's first a Nigerian and he's speaking from the pain of Nigerians before you now talk about him being a political figure or a lawmaker. Because when you look at his offense, they said, okay, he made hurtful comments against the presidency. And what did he say? He said the president has been caged, that is aloof of the pains of Nigerians, is inaccessible. So what is hurtful in those statements? And doesn't that even paint the true picture of what's happening in Aso Rock?
The true picture of his offense is to be seen from his rhetorics. Ndume is not a normal Nigerian. Ndume is one of those that foisted the APC governance on Nigeria. So, and his job is to defend that APC ways and APC's processes at the Senate. And if there are people who have not yet, even if it's what you're telling them is reasonable, Ndume's job is to file in the line of the party. That's just his story. He's not a normal person, you know. It's like taking the particular security man who shouldn't ask questions to look after your house. And when people are coming there to rob, he's busy discussing with them. That's not the job of the security man. So him is a gatekeeper of the party's policy and its chief whip. When the party's chief whip falls out, now, what are his reasons? He has said earlier he probably wanted to see the president. He didn't see the president. So there were internal crises within the party which made him want to see the president. And when he didn't see the president, he now made a general statement that nobody can gain access to the president. Now that's him. He's talking about himself. I'm trying to guide you through the political, you know.
Yeah, I don't understand. I don't understand. But isn't he painting the true picture of what's happening in the country? I'd like to find out that particular stance.
A true picture of what's happening in the country is what we get when there is this kind of internal wranglings in the party. You see, that's why I told you earlier that nature abhors vacuum. From within APC, you will also see the opposition. So he's not the first. You have seen El-Rufai, now you've seen him. So there's a particular constituency of the APC that are not willing to forgive Tinubu for whatever it is. So we're beginning to watch. This is, as I said, is morning, yet on a very long creation day. So I don't really buy Ndume as speaking up for democracy. No, that's not true. If he has accepted to become the party's drum major in the Senate, he does the job. His job is not to be seen or speak in public. His job is to enforce the party's ways. Whether the party is wrong or right, don't forget.
So, Catch, what's the place of, you know, having the dividends of democracy coming to the people if you say that if the party does right or wrong, its place is to tune in the line of what the party stands for? So what then is democracy if you can't speak truth to power?
When he took the position to be chief whip,
he took the position as a lawmaker. He didn't just become a chief whip. He's a lawmaker.
What you're seeing now, what you're seeing play out in the open is an internal crisis of the political party APC. So that's what you're seeing, okay? So Ndume is not like any other person, no. Ndume himself is the advocate of the devil. Whether the devil does good or does bad, you advocate for it. That's why you are the chief whip.
Okay.
You know, Ndume doesn't have to, his job is to be, he should close his ears.
Okay.
Common sense.
Well,
Whip
Catch,
everybody into line. That is his job.
Catch, you said it's an internal crisis, but what he spoke about were things affecting Nigerians, because he lamented about food crisis, he lamented about hunger, he talked about the cost of purchasing items that has skyrocketed, and you know, when you see things like this, you begin to wonder what we're actually talking about when we talk about democracy. But this is where I want to go now. Now, he made some comments to the president, but then we see a president that's currently just gave a directive for the distribution of food palliatives to the 36 states of the Federation. So in fairness, if you look at the administration of President Bola Tinubu, is this administration responsive or tone deaf to the plight of the citizens?
It is not responsive in its correct measure. The response to the food security crisis we have is to make sure that those who force farmers out of their farmlands, those who make it difficult for tomato to stay at its old price, those who make harvesting and cropping very difficult for farmers are removed. These people are security threats to our country, and they mostly come from outside. And since they've been killing those people and removing those people from, Ndume knows this thing, and he kept quiet under Buhari. So if these people kept quiet and that food security crisis has now become the country's predicament, and then you now want to think you will speak this way to make me think you're not part of the problem, it's not true. Okay. Please, Nigerians should not be deceived. We should demand for Tinubu to do the right thing in terms of the food security that brought us here. Send the army to remove those foreigners who are on page for ethnic cleansing because they want land. Tinubu should also not react to the problem by giving a ministry for livestock. No, what you do is look at why do you have a problem. Why do we have 400,000 farmers in Benue living in IDP camps instead of being inside their farmlands and their villages? Why have the security services abdicated their responsibility? Why has the executive not been able to get security services to do their right work? Why now react by embracing food importation, which will ultimately damage our agriculture in Nigeria? Because once you allow that food influx, instead of protecting the farmers, for them to be secured, for them to be able to do the thing they should do, you are abdicating your responsibility to provide security for farmers.
Okay.
Let us have security for farmers across the country. That is how to respond to this.
Okay, well,
by rushing to import food. It doesn't work that way.
Well, Catch, there seems to be no difference between what you say now and what Ali Ndume said, but then I get the point. Now, let me take you back. We actually faulted Ndume's outburst because, of course, he's a member of the APC. Now, Ndume's replacement was contained in a letter by the national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, that is Dr. Abdullahi Ganduje, to the president of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, and it was read on the floor. Now, some people feel that it is not in Ganduje's place to request and get approval on the floor of the Senate for Ndume's replacement, as the country is not a one-party state. So what do you now make of this notion?
That's where you're very 100% wrong. Nigeria is effectively currently a one-party state. So don't you, it's the other parties are, the PDP, my party, is moribund. It's doing nothing. And because it's a one-party state, that's why you've seen the politicians in the APC are doing this. So don't get your mind to think as if there are other parties. It doesn't exist. The PDP died when he refused to embrace inclusion through his zoning policy. And that was why you saw everybody from the Southeast left the PDP and it crashed. So we don't have an opposition. What we have is a movement. To be the movement followed, led by P2OB, but that's not a political party. Nigeria is effectively, as I speak to you, a one-party state. So leave those issues. So if Ndume is part and parcel of that structure that brought that to bear in the country, for him now to be complaining simply because he doesn't have access to the presidency in this one-party situation, I'm only telling you, since it's part of the system that brought this about, is either learns to manage it or he will not pay the price that we see him paying. As for your question regard to Ganduje, it's an internal party problem. It's an internal party issue to bring who your chief whip is. The chief whip is the administrative officer of the party on the floor of the Senate of the Federal Republic. What he does, he whips party members into line in issues of interest to the party and also most times for the president.
All right, Coach Onabanjo, thank you so much for talking to us about this. We appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
Now to the Green Chamber, where the House of Representatives has summoned the Director General of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency over his failure to appear before the House Committee on Federal Character for an investigative hearing. The chairman of the committee expressed displeasure over his absence and rejected the appearance of a representative of the agency on his behalf. Now, the committee urged the DG to appear before July 30.
It's known to us, and we are aware pretty well, very well, that the chief executive have not stayed so much long there in their own agency. But we regret to let you know that we're stepping their appearance as of today down, and then we shall communicate also the next date for his appearance, and we're expecting to appear personally. I think part of my observation, he has said he have regard for us. It's a committee that is constitutional, but he didn't even have the opportunity and time to write letter and sign for us personally.
Following Nigeria's worsening economy, the Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria has called on President Bola Tinubu to immediately declare a state of emergency on the broadcasting industry to save the sector from imminent collapse. This was the crux of discussion at the 79th General Assembly of the organization held in Benin City, Edo State, South Nigeria. News Central correspondent Austin Azu was there and now brings us the details.
No doubt accelerated the high cost of living across Nigeria. While many business organizations are folding up, others are laying off staff just to remain in business, but obviously struggling with the economy. Against this backdrop, members of Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria converged on Benin City, the Edo State capital, for our 79th General Assembly to appraise how the current economic situation is affecting their businesses and the way forward.
I'm honored to stand before you today as we gather to discuss the future of broadcasting in Nigeria. As stakeholders in the media industry, we hold a significant responsibility in shaping the narrative, informing the public, and promoting unity within our nation.
For us to come up with far-reaching decisions that will take us out of the intensive care unit that broadcasting has found itself as we speak.
Managing Director of News Central TV, Kayode Akintemin, was among delegates who spoke to newsmen with thoughts on the event theme, navigating the challenges of broadcasting in Nigeria.
As far as the broadcast industry is concerned, our job is to tell the stories, and that's exactly what we're doing. And my colleagues who are CEOs of TV stations, who are GMs and MDs of broadcast organizations across board, radio and television, they're all saying the same thing. The challenge is real. Paying staff salary is a big challenge.
More than 40% of broadcast stations in Nigeria have shut down. Those that have not shut down have reduced their transmission period considerably.
There was a plenary session where issues affecting the organization and a communique that was read by the Vice Chairman of BON.
We hereby request a media support initiative for concessions on tariffs and rates to facilitate partnership with the government. In view of the foregoing, we urge the government to 1, support the broadcast industry through the provision of CNG-powered generators to all born member stations. 2, to subsidize by 50% electricity tariffs of members on a monthly basis.
Meanwhile, the organization had a guided tour around some legacy projects executed by the state governor. Thereafter, a dinner with Governor Godwin Obaseki at the banquet hall, Government House, Benin City. In Benin, for News Central, Austin Azu.
Plans for a nationwide protest against economic hardship in Nigeria have continued to spark mixed reactions across the country. Stakeholders in Borno State have unanimously agreed not to participate in the planned nationwide protest during their meeting with Borno State Governor Professor Babagana Zulum. News Central's Umar Kirawa completes the reports. We'll bring you details of that in our subsequent bulletins. In a move towards ensuring safe and secure educational environments across Nigeria, stakeholders held a public hearing to address pressing issues affecting schools nationwide. News Central's Chidimma shares more in this report.
In March 2024, over 100 students were kidnapped in Kuriga town in Kaduna State. In the same month, gunmen kidnapped at least 15 students from a school in Sokoto State. In July, 22 children died and at least 132 were injured after a school building collapsed in Plateau State. These recurring events have prompted reactions from stakeholders urging the government and school authorities to take action towards securing safer learning environments.
In 2021, there is a national policy on safety and security of schools. And since that 2021, nothing much has been done in terms of implementation. We might not be there now, but at least we must begin to plan, to have a school that is safe and secure.
We need to create safety awareness in our community. And let us start from our community. I hope we will try for each of our institutions, and that's a challenge. Let's develop our implementation plan.
For students, the fear of being exposed to threats and unexpected events such as violence, chaos, or insecurity crosses their minds often. Although in regions that seem safer, students across the country can help but wonder what the case might be if situations were reversed.
As human beings, we prioritize safety first, and whether or not you're a student, you want to be safe. So I don't think anyone would want to be in an unsafe environment. Being in constant fear of danger every day, waking up every day and being in constant fear that something may happen on that day or any other day is not a way to live. So, I know it will be terrible, but I don't wish to experience it.
So imagine having to go and then you're looking back and thinking about collapsed buildings and terrorists catching you and all that. I wouldn't go. I'll just be at home and learn the basics from my mother, be a good housewife. Normally, the pressure in school is a lot, and then not having to think about forces that are beyond your control. That's something else I would be out of my mind, and I would not want to be in such an environment.
There are a lot of things to be done by the government, ensuring adequate security.
Intelligence that organized criminal groups are planning to take advantage of the ongoing protests. The country has been roiled by initially peaceful rallies sparked by now abandoned tax hikes, which degenerated into violence that has left scores dead. President William Ruto has scrambled to calm the situation, scrapping the proposed finance bill containing the tax increases, dismissing his cabinet and promising government cuts. But the rallies, while much smaller than last month, have continued across the country, with many still calling on the Kenyan leader to resign. In Southern Africa, South Africa is hosting the Africa Energy Sector Inward Buying and Investment Mission in Cape Town, a second leg mission with over 40 delegates from 10 African countries coming together to explore South Africa's energy capabilities and project opportunities across the continent. The mission also aligns with the operational phase of the African Continental Free Trade Area, facilitating new export opportunities and intra-African trade. The Inward Buying Mission is a forum designed to exchange energy-related information and expertise across African nations and partners, promoting sustainable energy development throughout the continent. News Central's Bongani Siziba tells us more in this report.
Transition to renewable energy in Africa has been progressive impressively over the last decade, with many countries working to increase renewable energy capacity in recent years. The Development Bank of Southern Africa has made available funds for renewable energy projects across the continent. Their representative emphasized the importance of public-private partnership in driving Africa's energy transition.
Sub-Saharan Africa has a huge dearth of energy. 640 million people in the continent do not have access to energy in the home. So it's a massive gap, and it's also crucial for industrialization and for job creation. So for us to be part of this transaction, which is bringing in new, clean, but also reliable and affordable energy, and crucially, one that's being owned and operated by an indigenous Kenyan group and supporting them with their ambitions is really exciting for us.
Kenya is one country that is making strides in renewable energy with a target of 13% of its energy mix coming from renewable sources by 2025. Kenya says it wants to lead the charge in Africa's energy transition.
To develop cheap renewable electricity for Africans. We're looking to be able to invest this to complete our project and also to expand in future geothermal fields, whereby we'll be able to bring cheap electricity to most Kenyans and Africa at large. Once we are able to connect our individual country energy pools together, we'll be able to supply not only Kenya, but the wider region at large.
The Nigerian delegation was also on hand to showcase their country's potential in the renewable energy sector. They urged their government to tap into the industry, highlighting the economic benefits of investing in renewable energy projects.
I spoke about the opportunities that exist within infrastructure in Nigeria, starting from railways to roads, but I did more focus on gas and the oil and gas sector with respect to the gas master plan segments. We did mention about the AKK and the opportunities that it is also present for the Trans-Saharan Nigerian gas pipeline. This presents a platform for African countries or some representative of African countries to discuss both at the private sector and government level. Up until now, African countries don't largely talk. And that is why a lot of African countries don't do business with themselves, even in areas where they can find it cheaper and make more money interacting with themselves.
A promising sign of things to come, several African countries have already succeeded in making steps necessary to scale up renewables, such as adoption of support policies, investment promotion, and regional collaborations. This gathering here aims to equip African energy leaders with the knowledge and resources they need to meet their respective energy needs and targets. In Cape Town, for News Central, Bongani Siziba.
To discuss this, I'm being joined by Zambia's Minister of Infrastructure and Urban Development, Charles Milupi. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for joining us to talk about this.
Good afternoon.
So what are some of the key takeaways from this forum, and how is it of benefit to Zambia?
I think the takeaway from this forum, this is Continental Energy Investment Forum for 2024, is able to link the various countries with South Africa and investment banks like DBSA and be able to explore the opportunities that are available in our countries. Now, for Zambia specifically, at the moment, we have an energy deficit, in terms of capacity to generate electricity. This energy deficit is occasioned by two things. The first one is over the years, even as we are pushing for mining increase, which requires a lot of energy, as well as irrigation in our agricultural sector, and industrialization, which also requires energy. I think there was lack of investment in the energy sector, which already was resulting in a deficit. But this year, last year and this year, Zambia, like other SADC countries, have experienced the worst drought in 100 years. In fact, 1 in 100-year drought, which has caused our dam levels in places like Kariba Dam to fall to very low levels. As an example, this time, usually if we have good rainfall, our dam level will be very close to 100% in terms of capacity for that dam. But this year we are down to 13%, 13%. This is affecting ability of our country to continue really to produce. It's affecting the social life of our people. And therefore we have embarked on a program to mitigate the effects of that drought, alongside the fact that we need renewable and clean energy as part of our move towards achieving the global targets for 2030 and beyond. So to mitigate this year's drought, we have embarked on a number of programs as a government. The first one is to encourage, in fact, push for the installation of solar panels on public buildings, development of off-grid mini grids to feed localized communities in rural areas. And also, we have liberalized really our energy sector such that any development of up to 5 megawatts, that is deregulated.
Okay.
So we are having a lot of inputs at this forum.
All right, it's quite nice to see that Zambia is actually putting its foot forward to dealing with issues around energy in the country. So let's look at it continentally. How do you think that African countries are lacking when it comes to collaborating and moving faster towards transitioning to renewable energies? What would you say are the biggest hindrances, and how do you think those challenges can be overcome?
First of all, I think in Africa, we need greater integration and greater working together. In Zambia, for example, our energy mix is such that 85% of our energy in a normal year is provided by renewable energy, basically hydroelectric electricity. But in order for Africa to work together and come together and benefit from the strategic importance of each country, I think there's need for greater integration. On the energy side, we need interconnection, transmission lines to link one country to the other. We need to develop the renewable energy sources, especially in various countries. If you look at DRC on the Congo River, there's such high potential. If you look at Zambia, we still have many sites that can be developed. So in addition to the vast energy that we can get from a solar plant and so on. But for this, we need greater integration.
So how do you think the African Continental Free Trade Agreement or area can come to help this happen?
Yes, that can help this happen by ensuring that we look within ourselves as African countries. The free trade area was designed to facilitate that, so that there is greater cooperation between countries, so that an investor, say in South Africa, can put in an investment in terms of generating that power that can be utilized elsewhere, using the interconnections that I'm talking about, like in the Southern Africa power pool. It is important that we recognize where we have surplus countries in terms of generation of power, and where we have deficit, and be able to connect these two and enable them to trade.
Okay. Honorable Minister Charles Milupi, Minister of Infrastructure and Urban Development, thank you so much for sharing your insights with us.
Thank you.
From other continents, we tell you that U.S. President Joe Biden has tested positive for COVID-19 during a campaign trip to Las Vegas on Wednesday and is suffering from mild symptoms. The announcement came minutes after the head of a Latino union said Biden had called to apologize that he could no longer address its members because he had been diagnosed. It also comes as Biden is under growing pressure to drop his re-election bid against Donald Trump after a disastrous debate performance sparked concerns about his age and health. However, the 81-year-old Biden said he's feeling good, giving reporters the thumbs up as he leaned out of his limousine before boarding Air Force One to head for isolation at his beach home in Rehoboth, Delaware. Talking business now across the continent, the need for a robust and reliable energy sector is undeniable. Despite numerous domestic efforts, Africa continues to grapple with energy access and security issues. This week, we see South Africa hosting an energy sector inward buying and investment mission, highlighting the urgent need for investment. But how far-reaching can such initiatives be? Furthermore, with the African Development Bank estimating a massive annual investment needed to achieve universal access and industrialization, the question remains, what are the roadblocks, and can Africa bridge this energy gap in the foreseeable future? Business Edge tells us more.
Where we hadn't been building our power and we hadn't been maintaining the plants as well. And so that's a lesson for South Africa, and it's a lesson for the continent as a whole, which is we need to take the right legislative decisions to free up the energy sector so that we can get power coming through. Private producers and funders like ourselves can support that, which will then allow our economies to grow and create the jobs that the growing population of Africa need.
We now have this breaking story that the Nigerian government and the organized labor have agreed to pay 70,000 naira as minimum wage, and that's according to the details that we have at our disposal now. A formal announcement is expected to be handed out to Nigerians by both the Nigerian government and the organized labor that consists of the Nigerian Labour Congress, the TUC, and all other labor unions. We'll bring you details in our subsequent bulletins. It's now. The July 2024 FIFA rankings have been released, revealing significant changes among African nations. Nigeria, finalists at the CAF Africa Cup of Nations, have dropped to 39th in the world, placing them 5th in Africa. They trail Senegal, Morocco, Egypt, and Cote d'Ivoire. Morocco's Atlas Lions have fallen one place to 14th globally, but remain the top-ranked team on the continent. Senegal also dropped one spot to 19th in the world, retaining their position as the second best in Africa. The Pharaohs of Egypt sit 3rd on the continent and 36th in the world, just ahead of African champions Cote d'Ivoire, who are 38th worldwide and hold the 4th spot in Africa. Let's also tell you that Nigeria's Sports Minister, Senator John Eno, has announced the cash rewards for Nigerian athletes who secure medals at the upcoming Paris 2024 Olympics. Gold medalists will receive $5,000, silver medalists will get $3,000, and bronze medalists will earn $2,000. This announcement underscores Nigeria's commitment to encourage and support its athletes as they prepare for the prestigious international competition. Senator Eno expressed optimism about Nigeria's potential to perform well at the Paris Games, highlighting the country's investment in sports development and athlete preparation. The Paris 2024 Olympics is scheduled to take place from July 26 to August 11, 2024, and Nigeria aims to improve its medal tally from previous editions. And that's all at this hour. But before we go, we take a look at some of our major stories. Minister of Education bows to pressure, accepts 16 years as admission age for 2024. Sanu Nasu embark on nationwide protest. Kenya police ban demonstrations in Nairobi after daily rallies. You can send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number and email on your screen. Don't forget to follow us on social media. We are at News Central TV. You can also watch News Central live on DSTV, channel 422, Star Times, channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Lekan Onabanjo.